All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Sports Esports Podcast. I'm your host, William, and I'm the only one here again tonight, but that's okay. But first, before we even start, I forgot I gotta update the standings real quick, so I'll do that while I'm talking. So this was a crazy week of LCK. I thought it was gonna. I'm pretty sure I said in the last podcast that this was gonna be a boring week. It was not. It produced probably one of, if like, top five best series of all time, though I was expecting that one to do good anyway. But we also had a lot of other surprises this weekend as well. Let me just change this and this to damn one. I guess I didn't need that because they're both 8 and 5. But yeah, okay. So with that, let's get right into it. The first game we had, the first games of the week was Sandbox Gaming versus Damwon Gaming, and this first game started out as a huge blowout. Sandbox Gaming completely took over the game right at the 16-minute mark. From then on, it was just they had a good gold lead. I liked the Infernal early by On Fleek. He had very solid. He did give up the Rift Herald to Canyon, but it wasn't that big a deal because they were able to trade towers off of it. Get the that's a Cloud Drake, not an Infernal. Well, that was Infernal. Yeah, okay, yes, I was right. And then there's a Cloud Drake, and then they got two towers here. Yorick just started popping off, and Summit was a monster on the Yorick, and because of that, he was able to split push. Flame wasn't able to do anything on the Aurelia. I don't think Aurelia is a very solid pick into Yorick. I think it's a very weak pick personally, and Dove on the LeBlanc was undefeated on the LeBlanc coming in, and he really showed why. He was just hard carrying them as well. It was just all around great game by Sandbox against Damwon Gaming. I thought they just played it all. They just played it very well. Game number two went to Damwon Gaming, though. It was a much closer game with a little bit ups and downs, but Damwon Gaming was leading the entire game as it was even at 1 minute, but at the 2 minute mark, Damwon Gaming was leading and they never lost. They threw a few times with a team fight around the 32-minute mark. They had a big drop in gold, and that's when you're like, oh no, Sandbox is. Well, I was thinking, oh no, because I had Damwon winning this series. But Punch did not look great on the Rek'Sai. And but Showmaker showed up on the Zoe, and he showed that Zoe actually is starting to become a counter to LeBlanc. Where at first everyone had thought the LeBlanc was the counter to Zoe. It's turning out, at least recently, that if on a skill versus skill matchup, if Zoe hits her skill shots, she's actually the better champion. Which I know that kind of sounds dumb, but in the sense it's not, because it's you have so much outplay as LeBlanc, you can actually just stop the outplay with a Sleepy Trouble Bubble, and you hit that, and you can instantly stop her. And it's hard to hit, but it comes down to skill level pretty much. Nuclear popped off on the Xayah as well, but Ghost was also popping off. Ghost was one of the main reasons they were still in this game. Summit had a very weak game on the Sylas. This was the second weak game in a row on Sylas. I don't think Sylas is a very strong pick in Korea. I don't think it's a very strong pick in EU. The only region that it's actually kind of strong in is NA, surprisingly, and it's only really strong on Licorice, to be honest, and Cloud9 and Niske. But yeah, I don't like the Silas pick. I don't like the Silas build. We've gone over this plenty of times. No Lich Bane here. There's a problem, in my opinion. Next, game number three was just a straight up blowout by Sandbox. They just took over the entire game from the beginning. They gave up an Infernal early, but that doesn't matter when you have 3 kills, an Ocean, Rift Herald, 4 kills, 5 kills, 6 kills, 7 kills, 8 kills. So it was 8 to 1 already by that point. So they did give up the Infernal, but the amount of gains they had gained from that, it was a 5k gold lead by 15 minutes. There was no way they're coming back. They did lose the Baron. They did get the Baron stolen from them in on 25 minutes, but it just wasn't enough. There was too big of a gold lead by that point anyway. And yeah, I don't like the Victor top. We've talked about our hate for Victor. That didn't work out. The Silas didn't really work out too much as well. Still don't like the build. He only went 1-3. It was mostly on fleek on Jax. Phenomenal game. He had an amazing play in the mid lane with his. He just jumped in and stunned 3 people as his team was actually losing a fight. I believe it was this fight right. It would have been this fight right here. This was the fight that looked like Damwon Gaming were gonna recover in this game and maybe pull it off. With here, they had 2 kills. They had 2 kills in the tower, except right after that, on fleek just flashed in, or he flashed or jumped in with his counter strike, got the stun off, stunned all 3 people, and it just helped Dove clean up on the Rise, which we gotta talk about the Rise. Look at this. This is what I mean by Silas carried or got carried. 1-3 and 8. 8-1-5 on your jungler, 9-0-11 on Dove, 4-0-15 on Ghost, and 0-4-12 on the Tom Kent as well. So they were all making a ton of plays. Not that it's a bad thing to get carried or anything like that. It's definitely a skill, and you need to have that skill. But it's just that the Silas pick didn't do anything all 3 games this series. Next, we had Jin Air versus Afrika, and you're like, oh, snooze fest, whatever. Why am I watching this? Well, you're watching this because Jin Air not only won this game, they led the entire game. They started out right at the beginning. Root got a very early kill on Sol, and Sol had a terrible game. I thought he played the laning phase terribly. He's playing way too cocky, and in general, same with Brook. Brook also. These are players that aren't necessarily starters, and this was Keen on the Vayne was desperately trying to make things work. I believe it was this team fight where he got 2 kills, and you're like, oh, he can pull it off. No, he could not. And Tristana was too fed too late. Too little too late for the Vayne. He didn't have enough pieces around him, honestly. Keen had a very good game. He had a very good series, but the rest of his team had a very terrible game. And hey, this was Jinner's second win ever this year, which you got to give him props. They didn't die they looked like they died multiple weeks ago, but they gave it their all this game, and they were able to actually beat Afrika, even if Afrika wasn't playing all their starters. Game number 2, Afrika was the one that blew out Jin Air, because they put aiming back in instead of Sol, and aiming just completely popped off on the Lucian. Root did not look very good on the Kalista whatsoever. It wasn't really his fault. I'd say it was more Nova was constantly getting caught out in the lane. You can see right here, Nova dead, Kalista dead, Nova dead again. That's 4 deaths on your bot lane pre-10 minutes. That's not going to work out well in any scenario. And that's frankly how they bullied through the game on that. Again, the Silas pick I don't believe did too much, but it held the Corki in check, which is more than you can ask. I mean, this was a 33-minute game, and Corki still had 3 items. So this was definitely, even though it was a win, I thought that this could still turn into Jinner's favor just because they had the Corki with the Karma combo, and I thought that he might be able to carry it. Sadly, they were not able to, but this was just a blowout win by Afrika as they put their main team in. For the most part, they still put Brook in, but game number 3, they put Keen on Vlad, who, despite his score, I thought did much better than that. He had death. His deaths were trying to help the team. I felt like more so than at his fault. Dread had a terrible game. Brook had a terrible series. Brook, I don't know if he just looked bad all series long. And I don't know why they didn't have UCal in here. But let's not talk about that. Let's talk about Grace on the Syndra just popping off, and Root popping off for her second game of the series on the Ezreal. Jin Air won a series. Not only did they win 2 games, which is double what they had won all year at their previous mark of 1-24, they were now 3-24, 3-25, but they won a series, and that's really good. I felt really good for the players. I've been hating on them, but I mean it's been deserved. I saw something come up on Reddit that it was regarding Aftermoon NA that you shouldn't criticize the players. I mean that's BS as well. They're professional players. I know they're better than me. I know they're way better than me. But the whole point about analyzing games, if you're on a professional level, you're getting paid multi-thousands of dollars to play this game. If you need to step it up when you're looking bad. And I get it that Reddit overreacts to a lot of things, but I mean it's like all other sports as well, not only just esports, where athletes get flamed a ton if they start performing bad. If a baseball player starts the season and he's only hitting 200 and so he has maybe 4 hits out of 20 at bats to start the year, people are going to complain a bit about it, especially when you're expected to be a team leader and stuff. So not to flame Jin Air too much, because they definitely did win a series this week, so they absolutely deserve it. But I think that all their flame is completely justified, and I think that you should totally be able to criticize professional players. I think that's totally fine. I don't like to be harsh. I don't like to I never want to make it personal with a player or anything like that. But it's all just on game analysis and stuff like that. And Jin Air absolutely deserved to be criticized, but not this week. They won a game, and it was good to see their players really relieved after that, because the interview I saw with Grace is that they seem pretty severely depressed over there, and you could tell it definitely got to their mental game, all of these losses in a row. But good on them. Very pathetic by a Freak of Freaks, though. Brook should not start for the rest of the year, I don't think. He had a terrible, terrible series. If you're having a terrible series against Jenner, you're not going to fit against the rest of the league, especially when your team is fighting to not get relegated. Next was the match of the week, and could have been the match. It's going to be probably the match of the year. Could have been the match of the last 5 years. It was one of the best matches ever between SKT and Griffin. The first game, SKT really dominated against Griffin. Griffin looked very frustrated in this game. Really, it was all about Griffin or Clid and Teddy were just able to. There wasn't many kills early. But every single play that Griffin made, SKT fought him back, and they weren't able to get that team fighting advantage that they always are accustomed to getting. Like, as you could tell, there was one kill by SKT at the 17-minute mark, and then there was obviously objectives. They took a mountain, a rift, a tower. They took a mountain. There was another tower, dragon, and tower. So there's a few objectives going back and forth, but there was only one kill until the 27-minute mark of this game. And that's where things started getting out of hand because SKT killed 3 people right away in one team fight, and all of a sudden it's 0-4 or 4-0, and they have 3 dragons to your 1, and they have like 4 or 5 towers, I believe, and they were eventually able to take the Baron off of this as well. And you were starting to think, oh my god, Griffin's actually going to lose this game, and that's exactly where you see the gold lead pick up from this 2K, stagnant between from 0K and 2K for about 28 minutes, and instantly spiked up to 7K, and then at that point it was unattainable for Griffin to get back. I wasn't a big fan of the Shen pick. I don't find Shen support too strong at the moment. I get that Griffin can make anything work, but I didn't like it at all against the Tristana. I thought the Tristana is very easy to escape the taunt, and LeBlanc also has a very easy dodge against the taunt, as well as Lee Sin, and frankly Aatrox has dashes as well. So there's a lot of dashes that can interrupt the taunt, or not interrupt the taunt, but get out of the taunt if you're an experienced player, and especially Tristana, because I believe she can stop it with her W. Like, she can get taunted, but she can still cancel it through her W, or she can cancel a lot of things through that. But yeah, I wasn't a fan of that pick at all. I thought the Zoe pick was fine against LeBlanc. It's a skill matchup, and if you're going Chovy against Faker, that's exactly what I want to see. Was very upset about this Urgot pick as well. Urgot is dead in the meta. I don't know why Griffin put Urgot in here. Like, they're trolling. You'd say they're like literally trolling, because Urgot is one of the dead last top laners at the moment because of the huge nerfs he got to his mana pool, which made him pretty much unplayable, especially in pro play. Game number 2, though, Griffin was able to come back, and they started out strong, instant 2 kills right away, 3 minutes into the game against Teddy and Mata. But SKT was able to come back. Faker had a nice double kill right away. After 12 minutes, and you're like, oh my god, Griffin, they might lose this series 2-0. I'm thinking, like, Griffin might actually lose the series, and not only lose the series, they're going to lose 2-0. That stopped. Especially with Faker. I thought Faker was going to pop off this game after that 2-0 start. Not the case, as you can see. Those are the last 2 kills he got all game. He had 7 deaths from that point on. Yeah, and Griffin pretty much just obliterated for the rest of it. Looks like they had a little drop here. I'm unsure why. You go from 1.7k to 100k and you win a team fight 3-0. Oh, it must have been shutdown golds on Aurelia and Elise. Yeah, it definitely had to have been shutdown gold on both of them. And listen, Elise. No, it wouldn't. It had to have been shutdown gold just on Aurelia. It was probably a 1k. Chovy probably had about a 1k bounty at the time. I don't remember for certain. But yeah, Griffin was just able to clean this up, multiple Barons, and just win this game. This game was pretty standard. I didn't think SKT. This one was more of a blowout. This one was the least close of all the games, I thought. Game number 3, though. We'll talk about a game. If you haven't watched this game, stop listening to the podcast and go watch this game and then come back. This was an intense game. Started out with a first blood already to Khan on the Jace. Khan looked phenomenal all series long. He looks so much different on carries than he does on tanks. Do not put Khan on tanks ever again. Yeah, but he did give it back, and then Sword was actually popping off on the Yorick for a bit there towards the beginning, and then Griffin kind of took control, complete control of this game, as you could tell, up until this team fight right here at the 27-minute mark. Before this, it's looking like, okay, you can see this gold grass slowly decreasing down. Griffin's going to totally win. SKT is gonna they're right of the ship, and then SKT got into a fight, and not only did they get into a fight, Teddy survived at 3 HP if I remember correctly, or was it 2 HP? It was under 10 HP for sure by Teddy surviving, and because he survived for that long, Viper flashes over to get to him, does not get the kill, but because he flashes over, he gets overextended and gets himself killed, and that sets off a chain link reaction here, where or just a chain reaction. Why did I say chain link reaction? What the hell? I'm dumb. Yeah, but it sent off a chain reaction where Viper died. All of a sudden, Lehens is flashing forward to make sure to confirm the kill on Teddy, which he was able to do, but he immediately paid for that with his life. All of a sudden, Faker's killing. Now that their bot lane is done, he's able to go in and kill Sword, who is there, and as well as Tarzan. And all of a sudden, that's 4 for 1. That's a free Baron, and SKT not only takes the Baron, instantly shoots up this gold lead all the way back. They convert it into so many towers and inhibs. Like they took 2 plus inhibs, I believe, or just 1 plus inhib. They took both Nexus towers off of this as well, by the way. But while they were doing that, Yorick, Sword, was trying to backdoor at the same time, and while he was backdooring, they were both like trying to end at the same time. So what happened here is right here, Griffin actually loses this fight. They lose a fight here. It looks like it's over. The only one left alive is Sword. Yeah, they're all dead, as you can see. Lucian got a triple there with killing Chovy, killing Tarzan. No, he didn't kill Tarzan, it looks like, unless he killed him right there. Yeah, he killed Tarzan, killed Chovy, killed the Viper, and killed the Hands. And then all of a sudden, they're just running it down, and you're like, okay, this is game over. They have the super minions pushing a little bit here. The only one that was left after this was Zac and Lucian. I believe Faker was still alive, if I remember correctly. Yes, Faker was still alive as well, but Faker was going back to stop Sword from ending the game, because Sword, while this is all happening up here, this is where all this fight is happening, where SKT wins this fight. Sword's down here trying to split push to end the game and backdoor. Sadly, after the fight, Faker comes back here, and Khan also comes to defend, and they end up killing Sword there. But while that was happening, the timers were not enough. Even though it was at 32 minutes, they weren't long enough so that Griffin was able to at least get back Viper and Chovy back into the game, and Zac doesn't do any damage to towers, and Teddy was on Lucian, who's not the fastest tower clearer of all the ADCs. He's definitely no Tristana or Jinx or something like that, so they actually weren't able to take the Nexus. I thought at the time, I really thought they could have, and looking back, obviously I felt like they could have tried at least, but they played it the smart way, where Baron was coming up. If they got caught and trying to take that Nexus and they would have died doing that, they would have given up the Baron and lost the game. So instead, they backed off. They played it safe. They're like, okay, we just took 2 Nexus towers. That's all we can do. We're fine. And then chaos happened. Just pure chaos. We'll show it later, where basically Griffin just instant backdoors as SKT is coming into the Baron pit, taking the Baron. If they don't backdoor, SKT wins with the Baron buff. There's no doubt about it. And it was just one of the most insane finishes to a game. And that'll definitely be a play of the week, which I actually do have to bring up now that I think about it. But yeah, it was probably one of the best series in a long time. Griffin highlights. All right, let's okay. I'm going to just pause that real quick and get those highlights in a second. Next, we had the series between Gen.G and KT. This was a pretty ugly series, especially coming off of that Griffin SKT of just perfection, like great team fights. Everything was just like so close, back and forth the whole way. This was sloppy gameplay, to be honest. QV on the Gnar was very good, which is nice to see. We've always seen QV on his split pushers, like the Gnar and the Fiora and stuff like that. It's nice to see Azir coming back in the meta as well. I like to see Azir. You can make a lot of flashy outplays, but this was just ruler dominating, QV dominating. This was just all out domination by Genji. Even though the gold lead wasn't that big, I felt like they had complete control over this entire game because they just had the Tristana so fed. Uh, didn't get like super fed early, but she got an assist and a kill. They had like 2 kills in lane during the laning phase, and that was enough for me in my mind because Kalista doesn't very scale very well into late game, but uh, yeah, she doesn't scale very well in the late game, but Tristana does. And I was thinking, okay, they're totally set, especially with QV just destroying the Jace early. Also, another early game champ, and QV on the split push and R would have been totally fine. Next game we had KT actually come out and actually destroy the Gnar. This is what I wanted to see from Smeb on the Jace. He went 8-0-6. This is exactly what you need from the Jace, is for him to just dominate the Gnar. He didn't get too many kills early, to be honest. He really, there wasn't too many kills early. There was a lot of team fights around the mid to late game here, like as you can tell. It was all there, but the point is that he absolutely was out farming the Gnar. The Gnar never got a chance to build anything really. I mean, he had 3 items, but at the end of a 38-minute game, that's not great for a split pusher. But Jace was just able to stay online, and because of the meta that we're at right now, there's not many huge tanks. Jace online never really falls off. Wasn't a big fan of Fly on the Lulu. That didn't help really at all. It did help Ruler. Ruler was trying to keep his team in this, to be fair. But I love BDD on the Yasuo. I think he was able to punish the Lulu quite easily and be able to be a hard carry of his own. Game number 3 was the same thing. BDD, I thought, even though he was 5-4, I thought he was a very hard carry on the Yasuo again against Fly. He just destroyed. He made the Zoe irrelevant. Score obviously helped with that as well with the Gragas. Definitely helped with some lane ganks, and not only lane ganks, but just the barrel knocking people away. Then you had Smeb dominating on the Auric, man. Again, QV took Gnar in all 3 games. It worked out in the first one, and then the KT adapted to it very well in the next 2 games. Smeb was able to play outstanding around the Gnar and just completely manhandle him in both games. And this was the series that was won through top lane. This was super impressive to see from Smeb and Score, who have very much struggled this year. They've had a very, very bad year. For 2 people that the team was supposed to rebuild around after their super team kind of blew up, this was the 2 people that they're like, okay, we're going to rebuild around these 2. We're going to replace our bot lane. We're going to replace our mid lane, and we'll be able to be good from there. Well, frankly, KT is really close to being relegated, and it's mostly in part because of Smeb and Score. Score hasn't played in a long time. To be fair, they've been playing instead of Score, because I don't know why, to be honest. I thought maybe just because of poor scrims results by Score and stuff like that, or he was injured. I don't think he was injured because they never said anything about that. But I just think that they were more confident with but after their break, they went back to Score. They had a 2-week or 2-game break, or a 1-week break last week. KT didn't play, and then Smeb actually had a fantastic week, and it's good to see from him because he's very much underperformed this entire year. Next, we had Hama Life versus Jin Air, and the Jin Air Magic only lasted 1 series. I'm sorry. They played okay in this game, to be honest. They look like they have some life, which is important. But at the end of the day, the whole series, they weren't able to keep it together. They did end up losing. This game, they looked like a little bit less life than the first one. But at least after the first game, I'm proud to say Jin Air has a little bit of life in them, and they're not completely dead. I mean, they're still 3-25. They're still most likely going to get relegated. I have no doubt about that. But they didn't look like they just rolled over and died from the very beginning of the game, and that is something that I can enjoy, especially as a viewer, because it's so boring watching games where a team's just like, okay, you know that team's going to lose right away. Next, we had Damwon Gaming versus Kingzone, and this game I thought I picked this one pretty well, but I was wrong. I thought Deft was going to hard carry, even though I liked Nuclear. I thought they was going to hard carry. However, it was Cuz who was the hard carry this time. He popped off with the Gragas, and because of that, he also, Gragas and Yasuo, as we talked about previously, very good combo. The ult into the ult is a lot of damage, especially AP Gragas, and you're pretty much not going to get away from that at all, especially with how squishy this team is. And as you can tell, they definitely didn't. They did throw a little bit around the Baron, like they did get the Baron, but because of that, they lost 3 towers, and that was pretty ugly. But they were still able to calm down at the Baron. They set up their lanes properly, and they were able to win the team fight, get some inhibs, get some more control, get all the map control back that they lost previously while they're taking the Baron, and they were able to close out this game. Game number 2 as well. Kingzone just swept them straight up, and it wasn't because of death like I predicted. I want to say I'm all smug about picking Kingzone over Damwon Gaming, which I thought was a kind of a bit of an upset in my opinion because of the way Damwon Gaming had been playing. But I said that in both games they would play through death. They did not. Cuz 8-0-7 on the Rek'Sai. He just had the series of his life, as well as Pawn. Pawn also had a fantastic series against Showmaker and Canyon. Speaking of series that not series of life, Canyon, obviously on the receiving end of Cuz's series. Great series. But yeah, the Rek'Sai was just an amazing pickup for them. Completely shut down Canyon at all costs. And yeah, they had just so much damage off of Cuz with the AD and Pawn with the AP that even though he was there, didn't really need to do as much as he usually does, where he's usually the one-man carry, which this is a huge sign for Kingdom, by the way, because they were a top 5 team in Korea with just Def carrying this team almost single-handedly. Now that like Pawn's playing better and Cuz, if they can keep this up, you gotta watch out for this Kingzone team. They won't threaten first or second probably, but they can definitely threaten a semifinals appearance here if they continue this. I would definitely say semifinals is a good shot for Kingzone if Cuz continues to play like this and Pawn steps up his game as well as along with Deft and Tucson. You don't even need Rascal to do too much at that point. He just needs to not die and not feed his lane. Next series, we had KT versus Afrika. This one was pretty ugly. I was upset with this one a lot because Afrika just blew out KT. After all the praise I had for Score and Smeb for defeating Genji, coming back and just having dominant performances, they went right back to the same disappointment that KT's had all year round. It was a very poor performance. Dread popped off on the Kazakhs, which I don't think Kazakhs should pop off. Though Keen on the Jax, we've seen in multiple regions now that Jax is a super hard counter to Yorick. So if you're going to pick Yorick, you definitely need to pick to counter out the Jax, or you're just going to lose. As well as aiming, just popping off on the Ashe. They had some really great Ashe arrows as well. Game number 2 also went to Afrika. Keen on the Aatrox, also destroyed Smeb on the Yorick. That wasn't very good either. Dread popped off on the Lee Sin. Score, again, this is the 2 people that I'm saying. KT needs them to step up the game, and they did against Genji. They really did. And I was thinking, when I was watching the KT versus Genji, I'm like, okay, I can see this KT team back. This is why I have KT as like one of the best teams of the worst teams. And I'm like, okay, I like that. And then I see Afrika lose to Jin Air, and I'm like, all right, my KT pick against Afrika, this should be an easy lock. Not so much. Afrika just destroyed him both games, not even close, and very disappointed with KT, and I have a very sour look at them this week, which makes my power rankings very confusing, to be honest. I'll bring it up in a second when we get to them. Next, we had Griffin versus Sandbox. This game was actually pretty close, and as you could tell, Sandbox was in the lead for a very large majority. 34 minutes, Sandbox had a lead. It was a small lead, but then Tarzan with the amazing Baron steal over the pit completely tilted Sandbox from this point on to the rest of the season. He flashes over the pit, grabs the steal, lets Viper clean up. And this, like, you look at these scores, you'd think they'd be winning the whole game with an 8-0-5 Lucian and a 6-0-8 Galio. Chovy was fantastic on cleanup duty. He always would be ulting on the mid lane Galio, which you do not see that very often anymore. But, it's Griffin, so they like to pick whatever they want, especially the Talia jungle, which did not work out until the steal. But yeah, this game for Sandbox, I felt this was an ugly one. Even though Onfleek was 0-6, the whole time he was still helping his team, and they were winning everything. If they get that Baron, they secure this win. There's no doubt in my mind that Sandbox would be able to clean this or close this win out if they don't get that Baron stolen from them. It was just a snowball effect. They get the Baron stolen, they have 3 people dead. All of a sudden, Griffin being Griffin can just put so much map pressure. Look at that. Instantly 3 towers after that. Instantly Elder Dragon. Another tower. And it was over. That Baron steal and the game was over in 6 minutes, even though Griffin had been losing all all before then. It was a shame. And then I think they were still on just pure tilt after that. To be honest, I still hate this Urgot pick. I ignore that it's 4-1. We don't do results based analysis here. This is 4-1. This is not a pick you should pick up at all. Hey Jakob, this is you just do not want this pick whatsoever on your team at the moment. Maybe a 9.6 when he gets rebuffed, but yeah, it was ugly, ugly, ugly for Sandbox after that Baron throw. Even they lost the game in the last game, but they lost a series on that throw. There was no mental recovery from that point on. And with that, let's go over to our players of the week. First off, we have our top player of the week. I have Hanwha Lifestyle. He had a KDA of 7, a CSM of 8.2, and a damage percentage of 20.1. He had a very good week for Hanwha Life. Even though they only played one game or one series, they looked very good in that series. Jungler of the week, it was Kingzone Cuz. We talked about before. He had a KDA of 28, average kills of 7.5, damage percentage of 23%, and a DPM of 489. It's a fantastic week for Cuz as well. As we said, if Cuz can keep this up, watch out for Kingzone to possibly a top 3 team in LCK. I really think this team, with how well Death displayed, if he gets some pieces around him, start stepping up, this team can be a very formidable opponent. I would even nearly rank them in the top 10 in the world if that is the case. Mid laner of the week was Kingzone's Pawn. Again, he, just like Cuz, stepped up hugely this week. He had a KDA of 23, CSM of 8.9, damage percentage of 22.6, and a DPM of 496. The ADC of the week was Griffin's Viper. He just had an amazing series against SKT. He had a KDA of 9.5, CSM of 10.7, damage percentage of 25.5, and DPM of 382. And then the support of the week was Hanwha Life's Key. He had a KDA of 12, an assist per game of 11.5, and a vision score per minute of 3.24, which is the highest vision score per minute that I'm pretty sure I've ever seen. That's amazing as a support. And now we will go quickly over to best plays of the series here, and I believe I got it right here. Wait, is that it? No. Okay, yeah, let's watch it here. This should be it, hopefully. I just picked a random video, so let's rewind. Okay.
Turrets go down, and the Azir will eventually show up here to save the game and take down Sword on that
This
Yorick.
isn't the actual thing. I'm sorry, person.
Nexus, and now SKT working on the
I meant to
Baron,
take the actual video. But yeah, this is where the exposed Nexus, SKT takes the Baron, they stop the stuff, and then this is just amazing. Trophy teleports in, Sword teleports in, and they just completely end the game. It was one of the best series ever, and I'm sorry that I took that. I didn't mean to do that. I wanted to take the highlights from the actual stream. I don't like showing other people content because I feel like I'm stealing it. So sorry about that one. I just picked the first video that popped up when I typed it into YouTube. But yeah, it was an amazing series. I didn't do it justice there. Basically, Griffin just backdoored off an amazing play while SKT was taking Baron. Couldn't have asked for a better series, and I expect a great rematch in the playoffs. I'm very much looking forward to that. Next, we have power rankings, and I do have Brock's power rankings. These are updated for him. He was able to give them to me, but like we said on the previous podcast, he's out sick right now, so he should be back for LMS tomorrow, hopefully. But if not, he'll hopefully be back for LEC on Thursday. Okay, so first off, we all have Griffin, SKT, definitely 1 and 2. After that series was amazing. Number 3 was Sandbox. Number 4 is Kingzone, who definitely deserved to move up. And like I said, obviously Sandbox has had a better year at the moment, so I can't really put Kingzone all the way up to number 3. But I really think this week, if Kingzone shows up again and Cuz and Pawn show up, I might move Kingzone up past Sandbox for their trajectory coming into the final few weeks here. Damwon, they lost both games. I still think they're a strong team, but that their loss against Kingzone hurt them here and drops them down to number 5. Hanwha Life stays at number 6. They did win their series, but it wasn't like a super big win, in my opinion. Number 7, I put KT number 7, even though they lost to Afrika, because I think a loss to Generic. Hear me out. Afrika should be here. It should be what Brock has. He has Afrika number 7, KT 8, Gen Air 9, or Gen G 9, because KT beat Gen G this week and Afrika beat KT this week 2-0, which makes sense. It totally makes sense. So I'm not gonna die on this hill too much. My reasoning is that a loss to Janair is completely unacceptable for Afrika. That is with the way Janair has played this year, 1-24. You do not lose to a team who's 1-24. They got very cocky. They played their backup mid laner Brook all 3 games. At game 3, it's unacceptable that UCal's not in that game unless he's completely unavailable, which he could have been. I don't know, but like you just cannot go. You cannot lose to Janair, in my opinion. That is just there's no excuses around it. Simple as that. You do not lose to Janair, and because of that, I dropped them all the way to 9th. I can move them back up if they have a good week, but I frankly think that between all 4 of these out. Between KT, Genji, and Afrika, they're all really bad, and I still do not know which one of them is going to get relegated. As of right now, it would technically be KT Rolster as they're 3-10, but they've beaten Genji, I believe, twice now. If I'm not, they could only be once. They've beaten Jin Air once for sure, and they might have beaten Gen G once. I don't know who the third one is, but one of these teams is going to get relegated if they don't win their game against the relegation, of course. But like, it'll be very curious. I still probably have my money on Gen G being the one that gets relegated. I think that KT should be able to overperform them in the last few weeks, and I think that Afrika has enough. Oh, it's tough to say because I really would have never put. I would have put Afrika as the best of these teams until they lost to Jin Air. It's a very tough scenario. Jakob, stop spamming so much anime stuff. But yeah, Afrika. I don't know. It's gonna be tough. I'm really curious to see how this goes. This is harder to pick than the playoffs for me because in my honestly, it's not just my opinion. It's just obvious. There's only 6 games left, I believe, or 4 games left for 4 games left for Afrika. 6 games left for Genji. So Genji is still in the playoff hunt as a possible 9-9 performance. But outside of that, 8-10, 8-10. Hanwha Life, Kingzone, and Damwon only need to win 1 game each. Once all 3 of them win 1 game, then we're sitting at the locked playoffs. So playoffs should be locked for Korea by now. These should be your 6 teams. Obviously, we're going to have some movement around here between 2 and 6. I think that Griffin will totally be fine at the top. But I think that SKT will probably move up to number 2 by the end of the year if I had to make a prediction. And Sandbox will be 3 or 4. I think Kingzone, you got to watch out for them. I think Kingzone is going to be a strong competitor by the end of this year, especially with Cousin Pawn now stepping up. With that, though, let's get into our predictions. Game number 1 is Griffin versus Gen G. This one is going to be an easy pick, just like every Griffin pick. Every Griffin pick is Griffin until they almost lost. I almost lost on that finally, but not this week. Definitely not against Gen G. A much different breed of opponent than SKT is. I can totally say that with confidence. This is actually, I think, is going to be a blowout week, personally, coming up. I'll let you know. We got game number 2, SKT versus KT. We just talked about KT getting relegated. We just talked about SKT being like 10 seconds away from beating Griffin. Like, that's a big difference in skill level. And last time these 2 teams played, SKT just destroyed KT. KT has not looked better since then. They've looked okay. I would say they've looked the same, not better, not worse, where SKT has looked immensely better, especially after this Griffin performance. This will also be a 2-0 by SKT. And Brock also has SKT. Next, we have Kingzone versus Jin Air. Like I've said before, I think even though Jin Air did win a game, I don't think that's enough. I think Kingzone especially, I think they are going to be a top 3, top 4 team at minimum by the end of the split, and they're going to be a threat in the playoffs. That's not what you would say about Jin Air whatsoever. Even though congratulations on your win, I'm still not going to pick you to win many games this year, if any at all, for the rest of the year. I don't think so because they already played Gen G and Afrika. Maybe if they play KT, I might have to pick them, but even then, it'll have to depend on performances by that time. Next, we have Damwon Gaming versus Hanwha Life. I think Damwon, even though they went 0-2, I think they should be able to take this one against Hanwha Life. I believe Hanwha Life are the gatekeepers of the LCK. They are much better than the 4 teams of Afrika, Genji, KT, and Jin Air, but they're not much better outside of that. And I think Damwon Gaming has shown more potential to carry against some of the top tier teams. So with that, I think Damon's going to win this one in a close series, 2-1. I think they get right back on their feet after this 0-2 week that they had. And Brock also had no, he has Hollow Life actually. Ooh, Brock getting bold. He usually picks Damwon a lot. Next we have Griffin versus Afrika. Griffin is still Griffin. Afrika lost to Jin Air, so I should say that. I don't have any analysis to give you on Griffin games. They're gonna win. They're just gonna win. They're the best team in the world by far. There's 4 great teams in China. That way, I would put in the top 6 in the world. You'd put 4 different teams in China from there, but they're still not at the Griffin level in my opinion. Top might be close. Top's pretty good. Next or IG. IG is really cocky as hell though. So, but they probably wouldn't be cocky against Griffin. That's probably the series I want to see most is IG versus Griffin. Oh, that in the finals at MSI. Oh man, that just makes me excited. The Shy versus Sword, Chovy versus Rookie, Tarzan versus Ning, and then Jackie Love and Balan versus Viper and Lahans. That would be fantastic series. That'd probably be the best series in the world for this year. I would watch that live no matter what the time was, even if I had work, because of how exciting that would be. Anyway, Sandbox versus KT is the next game. I still think Sandbox, they're still having a solid year. I don't think they're as strong as their record states at 10-4. I think they're going to fall off a little bit, but I don't think they'll fall off against KT. That's for certain. So I think this will be 2-0 by Sandbox, and this shouldn't be. Actually, no. I have this. I have a 2-1. I think KT. I think Smeb and Score did show some signs of improvement that they will take a game in this one against Sandbox, but I don't think it will be enough. On Fleek does have some moments where it's like, eh. But yeah, Sandbox and Joker. I love Joker. I think they'll be able to carry through their bot lane. SKT versus Helm Life. I have SKT going 2-0 against this one. I think SKT, if you're going to go that toe-to-toe with Griffin, you're going to win all my votes pretty much for the rest of the year until I see you guys play against Griffin in a rematch in the playoffs. Brock also had SKT. Then finally, we have Kingzone versus Genji. I think, like I said, I think Kingzone's getting relegated this year, personally, and I saw that I still think Kingzone is going to be a top-tier team. And that should be it. That's all the games. Me and Brock, I am currently 43 and 23, and Brock is 44 and 22. There's only 3 weeks left. I know I have to put week 10 in here, but yeah, that is it. The only difference we have is Damwon versus Hanwha, so that will be an interesting series to see. I'm really hoping I can win that one because I've been behind Brock since the very beginning. I started out career very poor, 4-6, 4-6, 6-4. Since then, though, I'm 10-0, 6-4, 8-0, 5-3. So this has been a much better improvement. I kind of was just on the Gen G and KT hype train, as you can see right here, and I didn't fall off for 2 weeks, and then that's when once I fell off those hype trains, I've improved tremendously, which I think most people have. But that should be all for this week. Thank you guys for watching. You can watch us on twitch.tv/KingLinkFan or at youtube.com/KingLinkFan. Do all the major regions. Tomorrow will be LMS at 10 p.m. Don't want to miss it if you enjoyed the LMS. And if you don't enjoy the LMS, maybe stop by, take a little sneak peek, see which team from there looks like the most favorites come to MSI. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.